Counseling feels like it's been years in the making, playing off not only one of the longest running gags in the show,
and you should just get the hell out of here.
Michael is now on the hot seat for having to answer,
Why are you the way that you are?
the B plot is the Pretty Woman Dwight thing,
You need to go back there, and you need to pretty woman their asses.
and the fairly fleshed out C plot has Pam, let's call it inventing a new job.
We're not interested. We're not interested at all.
So we've got so much stuff to talk about. With that, let's go.
I understand nothing.
I talk a lot, so I've learned to just tune myself out.
All right, this episode is ripe with deeper meaning stuff. It was again directed by Jeff Blitz, but counseling was written by BJ Novak himself, which is great because he gets these characters, but also because BJ Novak has the best bit in this episode.
The glasses are a little...
I liked them.
I thought they were kind of cute.
Yeah, I like them too.
But let's handle each of these plot lines a little differently, and then we're going to see how these mind games all coalesce into something bigger and the deeper meaning. First, let's look at Pam. As we talked about when she first got back from maternity leave, there's something off about her career path. And I'm telling you, that plant was symbolism. While it's been alluded that she's not the optimal salesman, she was still new, and we have seen her make some sales successfully.
And I doubled my sales last month.
Oh, really? From what, 2 to 4?
Yup.
But now it's definitively shown that she's lacking.
Is price something that is important to you? I don't have this sales gene or whatever it is.
I don't think that there's a sales gene, but I do think that sales is definitely a personality type thing. Some people seem to have a predisposition to be able to do this type of work. They're driven, they're a worker, they're intense, they're a good worker, they're a hard worker, they're terrific. But selling isn't really just a personality thing. There is some interesting science behind it. And there's a lot of books that can teach you tactics, not traits. But it's not for everyone. It's definitely not for me. Pam's conclusion in this episode is established in the setup, but so much is happening later on, right before the sample guy comes in. She's still crushed while she's watching Stanley wrap up his sale. This is an interesting moment for Pam in which she has the idea for the con and then just jumps right into it.
Is one of you the office administrator?
I am. I'm the office administrator.
But I've always chewed on this moment more than just for the character of Pam because it feels so real and nuanced, and there's two sides of this. Within corporations, there's the typical career growth, advice in the form of do the job you want. Are you a junior programmer? Well, then watch what the senior programmers do and operate at that level. Then the promotion will follow suit, hopefully. You like what managers do, you want to be a manager, well then you might have to take some managerial responsibilities on to show what you're capable of before you can officially make that jump. You got to do the job before you're actually given the title. It's a risky thing, but I've always called this forging your own destiny. And it's what Pam does here. She's failing in sales and she needs to act out of self-preservation. So she lies, cheats, steals, forges her own destiny, whatever you want to call it, to get a higher position and probably higher pay.
Great.
Maybe 50.
50?
No, not 50. 41, I think. 41.5.
That's great.
I'd personally never lie to get a promotion. But I think what's interesting here is that on the other side of this joke is that she's actually just playing within the sandbox that corporations provide. With so many people and processes, what's the limits of what's possible?
Have you ever tasted a rainbow and savor? You will.
Like, for example, a dumb example, there's this office that sat vacant by me for a year and a half. I would go into the office every single day and I would look over at this empty office, and only SVPs or higher would get that. And I am not an SVP. And every day I thought to myself, what's to stop me from just taking my little name thing out of my desk, my little peon desk, and then slipping it into the office and then just working from there every single day. And then at some point, if somebody asked me about it, I would just blame the discrepancy on some bureaucratic form that just didn't get filled out properly. I could have been told, you need to leave, or I possibly could have been given a promotion.
There are a few ways to get promoted, but this could work.
But I think that's why I enjoy this plotline, because it asks what's possible and maybe even plausible to pull off. That's what makes it feel weighty. She makes this plea, she goes to Gabe, he gives her a process, she works that process, and then even wins this showdown. And Gabe is in an equally weird position. It seems he has this theory where he doesn't want to cross a line and be aggressive and accuse Pam of lying directly.
Say that I'm lying, or say I have the job. Make a definitive statement, Gabe.
Statements of such a nature, while they have their place, are overused in a competitive business environment.
Established last week that he's broadly perceived as a pushover, but equally he's probably tired of calling up Joe with Scranton issues just to be told to handle it. So he grabs his laptop, which is useless, and grabs this big stack of paper, which is useless, and then attempts to coerce Pam into fessing up by scaring her into doing it. My opinion is that this sequence is some of the best work Fisher does in this series. As this realization washes over her, she stands her ground and she comes out on top.
Well, let me know if you need a new chair or anything that an office administrator can handle.
Will do.
And that's why I really like this subplot, because while I complain about corporate America, there's little perks here and there if you know how to explore and get behind the scenes and figure out how things work. I'm not condoning lying to get a promotion, just so we're clear. That has also been shown in the series to backfire.
Your dentist's name is Crentist. Huh.
Speaking of Dwight, he does have this fun, loosely connected plotline in this episode in which they're pretty womaning him up to exact his revenge on the snooty statue store. Snooty snit, did I say it right?
Best revenge stories of all times, in which this sex worker, who is the protagonist, that can't be right.
I do like that he's wearing Andy's vest, and the sequence at the shop does serve as the high point of cringe for the episode.
Okay. Listen, you can't treat me. Thank you. Good morning, sir.
Dwight's acting like an AI that just keeps getting reset, and that's because he's pretending to be something that he's not. It's pretty great, and the pewter statue wizard thing seems right in line with something Dwight would spend his money on.
How some people spend their money. Right?
I have always wondered what Jim's motives are for helping Dwight out here. Maybe it's altruism, but he doesn't quite care until Dwight starts hitting everyone's wallet.
Cancel all my business while using the F word.
Yes, I did, and I'm gonna do the same with all of your clients.
But the titular plotline of this episode is the counseling session between Toby and Michael. I can't say enough how much I appreciate what's happening here as a setup. It's between getting fired and doing these sessions, Michael decides that he likes his job just a little bit more than how much he hates Toby. And Tobes gets some time to shine in this one. I'm not sure there's an episode where we get more Lieberstein. Maybe Goodbye Toby, but here the character has a chance to come to life as he begins this battle of wits with Michael. Toby's shown throughout this ordeal to actually care for Michael. But I am a skeptical guy. I tend to think this has more to do with Toby wanting validation than actually helping Michael. But I don't have any proof for that. It's just my theory. Michael's trapped though. And for several sequences we have with him, he uses 3 different techniques to get or keep Toby at bay. He's juvenile.
You might think he's a puppet. You never see the lower half, but there's a lower half.
He's defensive.
It's the walk from the yogurt shop to my car after I drop my daughter off on Sunday afternoons.
And he's also deflective.
Nobody needs your help. Nobody wants it. You can't help anybody. I don't need your help.
Tobes gets the other hand by treating Michael like a child. He pokes just a little too far, which causes Michael to shut down completely. Mike turns in his fraudulent paperwork in the same sequence as Pam still filling out hers, and the arc resolves with Michael deciding to buckle down and draw some pictures of Dwight and Angela.
Why is Angela taller than Dwight?
Right. Oh.
I wonder why.
But to see how these stories relate, and to see what's really revealed here about Michael, let's dive into the deeper meaning.
What does a bean mean?
Someone please explain it to Cap.
Psychiatrists tend to be more crazy than their patients. Therapists are whores. Psychiatry is a narcissism machine.
So warning here, I am no psychiatrist, I'm no therapist or psychologist or otherwise involved in any mental health professional stuff at all.
I do the numbers.
I said that because I welcome the conversation here in the comments or on the Discord. I think that what we have revealed in this episode not only explains why Michael is the way he is, but also explains why he hates Toby so much. And it all revolves around his perception of himself and his placement amongst his peers.
Tell us what it is. I mean, really help to get some context so we can get on board.
You don't want to know.
Subplots in this episode reinforce this idea, so let's start there. Dwight's arc is that he's denied service because he wasn't dressed fancy enough to be accepted by the upscale workers at a Hallmark or something. But the reality of the situation varies from his perception of it. He was right that they refused service, but the question of why is revealed to have nothing to do with status or demographics. It was
a safety concern. We very politely indicated that he'd be welcome back.
Good morning.
If he were in accordance with our dress policy, but the blood-stained hands.
Wilson's doing this great start-stutter thing, but I think it's there to show that Dwight has this internal struggle with managing his facade as he interacts with this doomsday guy from War of the Worlds. And that's because Dwight often doesn't carry any facades. He is who he is, unapologetically Dwight. So it's weird for him to put on a show like this. Pam's facing the same kind of identity issue when she's coming to grips with her poor performance and then steps into this imaginary role. She understands, like most of us do, that if you can't perform, then you're gonna get fired.
Tell me everything's gonna be okay.
Everything's gonna be okay.
Tell me I'm good at sales.
You're good at sales.
So even this throwaway joke has some purpose in reinforcing the theme.
Disposable cameras are fun, although it does seem wasteful and you don't ever get to see your pictures.
More on that in a moment though. What does it all mean?
Who's Jeff?
Jeff was my mother's boyfriend, who she married.
So, her husband and your stepdad.
Yeah, I guess I never thought of it that way, though. They took the pitcher out of the game, and I felt really bad because the pitcher wasn't going to be able to play with his friends anymore.
Well, I think there's two things that's revealed in this clip. One, obviously Michael has some unresolved issues with his parents' divorce and his mother's subsequent marriage to Jeff. Michael exhibits this in the words he chooses to describe his relationship with Jeff.
Jeff was my mother's boyfriend, who she married.
But also in the manner he uses to put down Toby.
But you know what? You can't help people. You couldn't help your marriage.
So it's possible that he sees Toby not too unlike his real father, who, while we don't know much about him, we do know that he was no longer in the picture from an early age, and it seems Michael has at least the perception that he was left alone. Maybe the guff Michael gives Toby for his divorce is the guff he wants to give to his father for not fighting to save their marriage.
Toby's divorced. He, recently, right? You and your wife? And you have kids?
Oh.
Oh, that's so... Also, he's divorced, so he's really not a part of his family.
When I was a kid, my parents got divorced. They both wanted custody. I don't know. I didn't want them to get divorced in the first place, you know. I loved them both so much. I just wanted...
What do you know about conflict resolution? Your answer to everything is to get divorced. I hate so much about the things that you choose to be. But you know what? You can't help people. You couldn't help your marriage.
Toby not only is a divorcee then, but he's also a seat of authority in Michael's life. And most authority in Michael's life has proven to be untrustworthy.
I hate you!
Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way.
And he's also Toby.
Toby's great. He's great, but sometimes he can be a little bit much. I don't see no harm in that. Well, it's a cake, Toby.
So, those three things create the reasoning for why Michael hates him so much. The other thing that's revealed in this sequence is what Michael says about the baseball game.
They took the pitcher out of the game, and I felt really bad because the pitcher wasn't going to be able to play with his friends anymore.
Even at whatever age Michael was at that time, rejection was part of his life. Possibly, this was created by the abandonment issues he had with his dad, and then accentuated by all the rejection he experienced growing up.
I guess that's why I thought he ran away in the first place, to find a kid he liked better.
I want to be married and have 100 kids so I can have 100 friends and no one can say no to being my friend.
And I take that as a compliment.
Well, with your ties and your matching socks.
I just like to look good, okay? Or being picked for a team and then showing up and realizing that the team doesn't exist. Or that the sport doesn't exist. I should have known. Poop ball?
Toby then probes way too hard, and Michael realizes that he's shown his cards. But the damage was done. We, the audience, in Michael's last season, get a glimpse at the man behind the facade of Michael Scott. You can then go back through the whole series and watch this play out in real time. Michael wants to be the man that solves the problems, not Mr. Brown. Michael wants to be one of the gang and send dirty emails, until he finds a different peer group to identify with who won't reject him.
Upper management. They hooked me up with an attorney to protect me.
It's probably part of the reason Michael prefers his relationship with Wallace, who handled things more relationally, whereas he rejected Charles Minor. It's probably the reason that he's always seen Packer as a friend, because Packer stays by his side, even though Packer's a tool.
I'm sorry about your friend.
No, he's an ass.
Michael wants to be seen as vital in every aspect of his life. This is unreasonable for any of us to actually achieve, but Michael's behavior is quite often the only deterrent to him ever even getting close to it. And his social behavior is so odd, possibly because he didn't have a peer group growing up that he trusted in order to be able to socially bounce things off of and learn from. He also didn't really probably desire to emulate his parents because of all the bitterness over the divorce. It's probably the reason why film became such an impactful piece of his character. Like many of us, he can learn from watching things on television, whether using movie quotes to bring levity into situations he's deeming too heavy.
I surely do, and don't call me honey.
Or using tropes of rom-coms to try to complete his family goals.
I would like you to do me the honor of making me your husband.
Michael believes as long as he's useful, he won't be discarded. And that's important because that's why he has to be liked.
I have to be liked, but it's not like this compulsive need to be liked, like my need to be praised.
That's why he hates firing people.
Because the pitcher wasn't going to be able to play with his friends anymore. But Jeff said that the manager was making a really good move by taking the pitcher out. He really respected the manager.
Good manager doesn't fire people, he hires people and inspires people. Right?
That's why he projects a sense of family on all of his employees. Michael thinks that as long as you're useful, you won't be discarded. Pam's motives follow suit. The Pretty Woman allegory tracks as well. All of this gets us one step closer to understanding why Michael is so ready to healthily put his priorities in line when the time comes. And I think the takeaway here is that sometimes our perceptions can determine our reality, no matter how crazy it is. Sometimes all we have to do is just speak it out loud, hear ourselves say it, and it creates the opportunity for growth.
When I hear myself say it, it just sounds ridiculous, but I never said it.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. There's no shame in therapy. So with that, let's rate this thing.
This is the worst.
Okay, the cold opening. Last week I talked about the opening sequence for like 10 minutes and I haven't even mentioned it here yet. And if you have forgotten it, here it is.
Ah! You remember my cousin Mose?
Welcome, children.
Is great. Dwight's quest to diversify his revenue is awesome. Moe's painting in the dark, the decor, all of this being in the old Michael Scott Paper Company office, it's pretty wonderful. It is revealed too that Jim and Pam didn't get Cece into that nearby preschool.
Late every day this week.
We signed CC up for this daycare, and it's on the other side of town.
I wish it tied into this episode in some way, so I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5.
I promise you that door locks.
As for the episode itself, I think it's a decent one. I could talk about it for days, which is a good sign that there's a lot of smart stuff here. Dwight's beat-stained hands is iconic, Pam's rise to the office admin, and we get that missing puzzle piece for Michael's motives. And it feels like so much is happening in this episode that I think it might lack a bit of that easy, quick humor that the series has taken on over the last couple seasons. I assume this is because it's a Novak episode and he's trying to keep true to the original form and create comedy out of some of these uncomfortable things. Still, as much vital things happen in this episode, I can't rate it that high. I don't enjoy the episode that much. It's like going to a burger joint and ordering a salad. Like, I need the fiber, but, you know, I want a burger. So I'm going to give Counseling a 3 out of 5.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please.
Next week, we're going to be watching Andy's play, so that'll be a thing.
It was weird, but it wasn't a disaster.
It'll be great. Come back next week. Like this video, subscribe if you haven't. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.